Hey everybody, hope you guys are healthy and safe. So this is the OPPO Find N5. This is the world's thinnest foldable phone right now, but it goes beyond just being thin. This is also the world's most waterproof phone right now and probably the most durable too. It's crazy to see how far foldable phones have come since their debut back in 2019. If you remember, those early devices, yeah, they were really cool tech, but they were relatively thick, chunky, and fragile. Fast forward 6 years and the Find N basically addresses all of those issues. So in today's video, I have partnered with OPPO to do a comparison video comparing the Find N5 against perhaps the most mainstream foldable phone, the Samsung Galaxy Z Fold 6. So without further ado, let's begin. So the first thing most people will notice when they pick up both of these phones is how much more comfortable in the hand the OPPO Find N5 is. That's because not only is this much thinner, 8.93mm to 12.1mm here, it's also 10 grams lighter. Despite that, the OPPO Find N5 still packs a much larger battery, 5600 mAh here compared to 4400 mAh. The Find N5 is more comfortable to hold because all the corners are a little bit rounded and a little bit chamfered, meaning the edges kind of smooth downwards a little bit. On the Galaxy Z Fold 6, the corners are very sharp, particularly the left hinge corner. Like right here, it comes into this sharp 90-degree angle. And because I hold my phone with my left hand, every time I hold the Fold 6 like this part is jabbing into my palm. The Find N5 doesn't have those issues. It just nestles into my palm a lot more comfortably, a lot softer. The other thing that most people will notice when they pick up these two phones is that the Find N5 looks and feels much more like a conventional slab phone, like a flagship one at least, like an iPhone 16 Pro Max or a Galaxy S25 Ultra. These two phones are very close in overall dimensions and weight. The 6.6-inch screen here in the Find N5 has a relatively conventional aspect ratio of 20 by 7.9, so basically 20 by 8, which gives it a form that is very close to a conventional phone, as opposed to the Galaxy Z Fold 6, which has an elongated form factor that kind of feels like a TV remote, oh, this is actually a Samsung TV remote right here. So yeah, the shapes are very similar. So the narrow shape, I gotta admit, some people do say they like the narrow shape because it makes the phone easier to hold with one hand. But for people who actually use the outside screen for a lot of productivity, like typing, this conventional aspect ratio is just better because the keyboard, it's wider, it's more normal size. But of course, these are foldable phones, so the stars of the show is the inner screen. Right here, OPPO takes a pretty decisive win too. So the Find N5 screen is larger, 8.1 inches. This is in fact the largest screen in a conventional foldable phone right now, not including a trifold. And it also gets brighter with higher resolution than the Z Fold 6 display. Although to be fair, the higher resolution for the inner screen doesn't matter too much because both of these screens look plenty sharp enough to my eyes. What you will notice is the Find N5 has a crease that is significantly harder to see compared to the Fold 6. With the Fold 6, anytime you tilt the phone a little bit off angle, you will see the crease. On the Find N5, you have to tilt the phone a lot more at an extreme angle before you see it. But the point is, if you have these two screens side by side, at virtually any angle, the crease is harder to see in the OPPO device. But the thing is, this isn't really new. Even going back to the original OPPO Find N1 from late 2021, that phone already had a crease that was much better than Samsung's crease. So OPPO having a better crease than Samsung is not news. Instead, what impresses me about the OPPO Find N5 is that OPPO didn't settle. OPPO kept improving the crease even compared to itself. Because last year's OPPO Find N3 already had a crease that was pretty hard to see. But compared to the Find N3's crease, this crease here is 10% narrower and 50% shallower. The magic to this almost invisible crease lies in OPPO's self-developed hinge, which OPPO calls the titanium flexion hinge. This hinge, according to OPPO, is 26% smaller than last generation, the Find N3. But it's not just about how small and thin it is. This hinge is more durable too, because this is the first foldable phone in the world to be officially certified IPX6, IPX8, and IPX9. The last rating, the X9, means that this phone can survive being sprayed with water, even high temperature water. Over on the camera side, both of these phones offer a triple camera system on the back, covering the typical ultra-wide, wide, and telephoto zoom ranges. Now for the main camera, both of these guys are very similar. They're both 50 megapixel shooters, and general photos snapped by the main camera from both phones are very close in quality, although I do think the Find N5's main camera produces photos that are a little bit sharper if you crop all the way in. like this cat's fur right here. Now moving to the zoom lens is where the Find M5 is going to take a big lead over Samsung, because this phone has a 50 megapixel periscope zoom lens using a periscope hardware that was newly developed by OPPO in the last year, whereas the Galaxy Z Fold 6 uses a 10 megapixel conventional telephoto camera, and this sensor is at least like 3 or 4 years old. We know because it's been in the last several Samsung Galaxy flagship phones, like dating back to like the S22 Ultra, I believe. Just look at these samples side by side. The Find M5 zoom lens usually produces more details with more natural bokeh, and also takes in a little bit more light. This is evident at even the optical 3x zoom, but if you go up to like 10x or even further, like 30x, the lead widens in favor of OPPO. On top of that, the Find M5's zoom lens also has tele macro capabilities, meaning it can get to a minimum focus distance of just 10 centimeters, which allows you to take macro shots of something that are not distorted with natural background bokeh. The Fold 6 does not have such capabilities. As you can see here, I'm trying to take these macro shots of these sauteed chicken sticks right here, and the Find M5 is able to get focus on the skewers and produce natural bokeh, whereas the Fold 6 could not focus on the sticks at all. Where Samsung does take the win is in the ultra-wide camera, because the ultra-wide sensor in the Find M5, it's an 8 megapixel camera and the sensor size are a little bit small. During the daytime, photos are still pretty close, but when you move to low light settings, the Fold 6's ultra-wide camera is a little bit better. But there is one more area of the Find M5 camera that I prefer over Samsung, and that is in the color science and also the variety of filters or film simulations that you can apply. Because this phone, like OPPO's last few flagships, are engineered in partnership with iconic camera maker Hasselblad. So that means OPPO and Hasselblad work together to fine-tune the image processing and the color science. So the Find M5 has a lot of film simulation filters that can drastically alter the mood and vibe of photos snapped by this phone, and some of them look really good. Like, you guys know me, I'm a fan of those like kind of hipster film camera type of shots, and the Find M5's film filters look really good here. On the Fold 6, you don't get any of that. All the photos captured by this phone just looks like a typical Samsung, very HDR-like photo. Now the Find M5 also has the edge in silicon because this guy runs on the latest Qualcomm Snapdragon 8 Elite, whereas the Fold 6 is powered by the Snapdragon 8 Gen 3 from last year. Although this is not a fair comparison because this phone has been out longer, it's an older phone, so we cannot fault Samsung for having an older chip. But I'm just saying, if you do care about raw performance right now, the Find M5 is the most powerful foldable phone on the market right now. Now on the software front, both of these phones run Android 15 with each brand's respective software on top, and I find both OPPO's ColorOS and Samsung's One UI to be very intuitive software, very well optimized with a lot of features. However, OPPO takes the lead in multitasking, and that's saying a lot because I actually think One UI has a very good multitasking system too, but OPPO's system is just ingenious. Now this is not a new system, it was introduced last year with the OPPO Find N3. OPPO calls it boundless display. Essentially, it allows you to open up to 3 apps at once in a grid, but that grid, it's not static. It's not like a locked grid. Instead, OPPO imagines the grid as a virtual grid that expands beyond the screen's borders, meaning when you're jumping between the 3 apps, the UI will dynamically zoom in and out of the app that you're using. And it's very seamless, as you can see here, and it's true multitasking because all 3 apps are running at the same time. Now on the Z Fold 6, you can run 3 apps at the same time in a grid too, but this grid is static and confined to within just the physical borders of the screen. As you can see here, when you have 3 apps at the same time, 2 of the apps are so small that it's very, very hard to use. OPPO's system is just ingenious and so clever, and I want it on like every device I own. I want it on my laptop and all my like slap phones too. There's one more really cool feature that the Find M5 can do. This phone can connect to a MacBook. Now you do have to install OPPO's O Plus software on a MacBook, and once you download, you just have to ensure that both your MacBook and your phone is connected to Wi-Fi and both logged into the same OPPO account. And once connected, you can move files between 2 devices easily. Check this out. If I take a picture on the Find M5, that photo shows up on my Mac within like 2 or 3 seconds. Likewise, I can move a file from the Mac to the Find M5 via drag and drop. But the absolute coolest part, and a feature that I would use a lot, is you can mirror your MacBook screen on your Find N5, and you can remote control that MacBook directly on the Find N5. So that means you don't have to touch that MacBook at all. You can access your Mac on the Find N5, and just check it out. Latency is really good. Like, you're not seeing significant delay between what's happening on the Mac and what's being mirrored on your Find N5. I can actually use touchscreen on my Find N5 to access my MacBook files, and I can even open Final Cut Pro and edit videos without touching my Mac. If you put the Find N5 in flex mode, you can have a keyboard display at the bottom half of the screen, and when you do that, the Find N5 looks like a miniature MacBook. So this is the OPPO Find N5. When you factor everything, software, silicon, the screen, and global availability, this is probably the best overall foldable phone right now. So yeah, that's about it for this video. I hope you enjoyed this content. If you did, please consider subscribing to my channel. It will help me a lot. I have a lot more content coming, so stay tuned. Thanks for watching.